Hey, welcome to the Cam and Otis Show. Army vet and one name guy. I mean, I think we might be the only one name. I say this in jest, but the only one name guy I might know. Griff, man, welcome to the show, brother.
Well, thanks for having me here today. It's excited to be here. I do have a first name, uh, but I come from Iowa, a super small high school with 800 people, and a school of 800 people, there were 17 Matts. So everybody went by their last name because if you just yell down a hallway, Matt, everybody turns their head, and so you had to be more descriptive. And so then you join the military with a nickname, and then it just kind of sticks. And
it becomes you, right? It is you.
well, now it's just a really good filter because you get all those those emails that come into your inbox. So like, hey, we can get you 10 return on ad spend. Oh, we can help your SEO, or we could do this. Or somebody calls the office and asks for Matt. Like everybody knows they don't know me and they're trying to sell me something. Like, yeah, he's not around. Well, he'll call you back. Click. Yeah.
I had a guy, one of my NCOs, after he retired, we worked together at Northcom. It was the same way. His first name was Felix, but he went by Joe. And anytime I got anything, phone calls, emails that was addressed to Felix, he just hit delete. He didn't even read. So
my favorite now is the spam button because we operate out of Google. So anytime anybody emails me that and they get right into my inbox, I just hit that little spam button. Like, yeah, get your email service provider, get your ESP ranking down, quit emailing people's inboxes if you don't know them.
Yeah. That's there's your lesson right there, folks. Just nice little quick thing to keep that filtering down. But I got to jump into my favorite thing is I know this, and I think most people that are going to listen know the story of combat flip-flops. But what I'm more curious about is what was I can do because you got a buddy, a partner, or your ranger buddy, but we could do something on our own. What started that, man?
Honestly, and this is rare because this is a dirty little secret, but I was an officer. So I was a fire support officer in the Rangers, and Donald Lee was one of my Ford observers, and he was one of the guys who did his part. September 11th happened. He enlisted, but he did it. He said, "I'm going to do a 3-year contract. I'm going to do my part. I'm going to get out." And he was a successful e-commerce guy in LA. So he was 25 years old when he joined. So he was automatically older. He's older than me, right? So here I have a private that was older than me. And because they were never going to send him to Ranger school or any leadership school because he only had a 3-year contract, he was just a perpetual grunt. And that being said, he was always in the most dangerous position because he was the perpetual grunt. And so whenever me as the officer would come up with a bad idea, he was the one guy on the team. He would say, "Nah, that's not going to work." And I would, and as an officer, it's hard. And especially in the Rangers, when all the NCOs are looking at him, like, "You just said that." But then he would come up with a really good idea that would make it faster or easier or more efficient. And, as a cherry lieutenant in the Rangers, if somebody's telling you how to do something better, especially when their life's on the line, you listen to them. And so we built a relationship based on those fundamentals, and him having entrepreneurial experience, prior to the military, we were always talking about business, and we were on deployment on downtime. I was always reading business books, and we would always just talk about dumb ideas that we would do. And the dumbest one that we had was we were going to start a business called Cafe Racer, where we were going to have little motorcycles with like trailers or like sidecars on them with espresso machines. So people could order a coffee and you just roll it up in front of their office, make them a whole bunch of coffees, and then walk it in and deliver it. So it's like fresh and hot. A dumb idea that we had and we kicked around forever, but we never got it off the ground. And we just kept talking about business ideas for another 3 to 4 years until Combat Flip Flops finally rolled around. And this one was dumb enough and we believed to be executable enough to actually make happen. So we just tried it. We just started.
It's you did the opposite of what most guys do that I've talked to, entrepreneurs, is they come up with this idea and they start to go off and build it. And then they're like, crap, I need some help. And they look for partners. you found the right partner and then found the idea. That's a much more solid approach to being successful.
It's funny because he's the longest friend I've ever had. And when people meet us, they talk to him and they talk to me and they go, I cannot believe you two are best friends, because we are so different on everything that we do. And it just works. It does. Yeah. Find a good partner who's the opposite of you.
You already mentioned one of the more dumb ideas that y'all had during that time. How did you filter out those ideas? Because that could be a tough thing. Because I think we've talked about this recently on a recent episode, Dad, that, you know, the dumbest ideas can also be the smartest in their own weird way. And so how did you filter out which ones were dumb in the sense that they're impossible and which ones were dumb in the sense that they're brilliant?
They're dumb in the sense that they're impossible always comes down to a spreadsheet. And this is something that I always tell entrepreneurs, is that when people are pitching ideas and I look at their spreadsheets, I'm like, dude, you're not going to be a millionaire in 6 months. That is the exception to the rule.
My spreadsheet says it.
My spreadsheet says it. And it is possible to make these things happen. Yes, your spreadsheet says it's feasible, which means you might have a chance at it. Oh, you guys broke up.
Yeah.
All right, hold on. Where'd
still
you guys
hanging.
lose me?
There you are. You're back.
Where'd you guys lose me?
We had the audio going.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I'll just start over. Like it always starts with a spreadsheet. You know, you're not going to be a millionaire in 6 months, no matter what the spreadsheet tells you. Yeah, so, but your spreadsheet, if it tells you you're going to be a millionaire in 6 months, you might be 1,000-aire in a year, but it is feasible. But when you look at a spreadsheet and it's not feasible on a spreadsheet, it's not feasible in reality. So that's our quick filter real quick, is does it work with the math?
You know, I think the interesting thing there that I'd like to throw over to you, we can maybe go around with this, everyone answer, is how do you balance, you know, in that startup phase of putting together the spreadsheets and putting out that math, of the ambition of what you really want to do in that vision inside your head and the reality that, you know, this 6-month plan isn't going to work out like you think it is. None of those spreadsheets actually shake out the way you think they are. So how do you balance that? Because that's something I remember with one of my businesses going through, that it was, you know, I knew that I wasn't going to be able to stick to the plan, but at the same time, you have to put together the plan and, you know, these 2 years of financials that are frankly completely made up in a lot of businesses. So what would you say on that?
It's funny. Another thing you learn in Afghanistan, I call it Afghan Math. And if they say that there's going to be 100 fighters you're going up against, you divide by 2 and move the decimal point over 1. So it's really 5. Right. And just take whatever you're going to bring in on revenue and apply Afghan Math to it and see where it's going to work. And if that works, then you might have a viable idea, because the below the line expenses of overhead and insurance and cell phones and automotive expenses and travel, those are actually fairly predictable. Like those are things, if you just spend a couple of days looking at, doing some research, making a couple phone calls, you can get within plus or minus 20% estimates of a real true below the line cost. And then, you know, just add a little bit more as a fudge factor, because things are always more expensive than you think. What really gets most people is their sales funnel, right? And they just don't really understand how time consuming and expensive it is to actually sell the product. And most people get wrapped up in the idea of building the product, of marketing the product, of taking photos of the product. And that stuff's good, but you actually have to sell it. Right. And that's what gets most people, is the time consumption and the cost to actually make the sale is what gets most folks.
Did you and Don? Go ahead.
Yeah. So I say, like, to balance that ambition, the only way that I can say is, like, you just have to be beaten about the head and shoulders for a good 4 or 5 years to really curb that ambition, to take a more realistic approach to your forecast and your sales ideas.
So did you and Don actually do the hardcore business plan? Did you do the Ranger 5-paragraph field order, or did you just say, all right, dude, let's go, room, and fire it up and run?
Yeah, we did the latter.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I just did a quick spreadsheet, and the business plans are great to provide you an azimuth of where you want to go. right? It's just a really good exercise as a business owner. And if there's plenty of checklists out there that if you just read from left to right, go from top to bottom, answer all the questions, you're going to discover things that you didn't think of initially, and you're going to answer, problems ahead of time, right? Or things are going to come to mind. Or you're going for investment and you need to have this business plan to answer the questions of potential investors into your company. We didn't want investors. We were able to come up with a pre-sale model in which we were going to be able to use like a cheap website, an affordable product, and good marketing to have our customers actually finance our product. And then we were just going to slow roll it over the years. So our business plan was more of an azimuth for us than an investment tool.
Thought you had one there, Dad. Sorry.
Yeah.
So with that, using the business plan as the azimuth there, how did that go in that first few years? Because, like you said, having the business plan to have everything laid out is useful, but the plan doesn't really come together. So did you find that other end of the spectrum in that first few years to where you didn't quite have enough together?
No, I think we were good. Honestly, our plan was on azimuth, and what got us was logistics. And it's the famous line from SOF is amateurs talk tactics, professionals talk logistics. You can go all the way back to Napoleon, and he says an army dies on its stomach, right? If you got 100 fighters and you get them to the fight tired and hungry and cold, they're not going to be anywhere near as effective as if they were warm, fed, and well slept, right? Like well rested. And what we were finding is that there was a high demand for our product, but then our manufacturing base had tons of issues and our logistical costs went through the roof. So we would have been successful. We would have been near our spreadsheet to start, but our logistics, because of the complexity of what we were doing, got us due to situations out of our own control. Like there were things that we just could not change. Like Obama announced the end of the Afghan war in 2011, which then ended the boot contracts to the factories that we were leveraging the government overhead to manufacture our commercial product on the, for a less expensive cost. And then the burden fell onto us, and then the border shut down and we had to pay a $10,000 air bill to get our materials in. And these are all logistical things that really killed us. And so the thing that we've learned is that you really need to focus on your logistics, moving the product from point A to point B, because it's typically going to be your biggest linchpin to creating either a positive or a negative customer experience, for the people that you're selling to. Because if you deliver it ahead of time or on time, that's the expectation. If you deliver it like late, you just lost a customer. Mm-hmm. So that's the challenge.
Yeah. What were I think the only way I'm coming up with how to ask this is describing it as thresholds in kind of that growth or milestones where it's like, you and Don are drinking beer at the kitchen table, kind of, sketching things out and throwing things together to, oh crap, we need blah. And then the double, oh crap, we need a lot more of that or whatever. What were those sort of like, I guess, milestones maybe? They probably blew by. You didn't even notice them.
Yeah. I mean, for us, we always just look at the daily sales revenue. Mm-hmm. So we have, we have our sales forecast, and then we break that down into a sheet. And then that goes into, okay, we need to make $200 today, and we need to make $200 tomorrow. And then we just look at, and we just track it. We just have a little cell that we enter in every day, and it just makes a little graph. So if the green line's above the red line, everything is good. If the green line's below the red line, then what dials do we need to change to get it back up? But there's a great book by, I can't remember, it's called Mastering the Rockefeller Habits. And I can't remember who wrote it. But yeah, they go like, what are your priorities? How do you measure your priorities? What's the rhythm that you look at your metrics to measure your priorities? And if you just keep doing that over and over again, you're going to find that things aren't doing wild swings. They're just minor course corrections. that enable you to stay on track towards your priorities. And I have to say, like, the biggest milestone for us are things like, oh crap, we need a lot more, is we got on Shark Tank in 2016, and we filmed in 2015, expecting to air Veterans Day 2015. So we bought a whole bunch of inventory, to support that. And then that day came and went, and we had a whole bunch of bills to pay, tons of inventory, and no sales from that event. So we had to do a massive pricing change, got away from retail, went all direct to e-commerce, cleared it all out through the holidays. And then 6 weeks later, actually 3 weeks later, we got the notification that we were going to be on Shark Tank, and all of our inventory would have sat on my desk. And this is the largest small business experience you could possibly have, period. So that was just a lot of levers being pulled, and it's always, we need more cash, right? So in times like that, how do you get more cash?
We've had a few different people on the show who have been on Shark Tank, but I don't think we've ever actually asked them. What was that experience like for you, Griff?
It was spectacular. We treated it like a special operations mission. And it's true. Like, we studied our targets. We knew which sharks we wanted. We watched as many episodes as we could. We developed little spreadsheets and profiled how a person responds, whether it was positive or negative, to the individual sharks that we wanted. And then everything from, like, knowing, did you guys lose me here?
Oh, got you.
Okay, cool. All right. And then knowing, like, how many steps it was from the first door to the second door, how many steps it was from the second door to the mark. And then what we did is we just did our research, and we found what other veteran companies were on Shark Tank. And we just contacted them through social media and got some consultation on, the experience from their behalf. And obviously there's just a super huge non-disclosure agreement around it. But that typically, like, goes to, you can't tell people about the deal. You can't, break it before they do. And there's just some things you have to, like, be careful of when you're talking about Shark Tank. But in general, like, they gave us, no, hey, we did this mission. Here's how to be successful. And so the veteran community was really good for us for helping. And we treated it like a raid, right? Go down there, get what you want, get the hell out. And so we went down there, and initially their initial offer was more than my bottom line. So I knew we were going to win. So you always go for 20% more in a business deal. I always ask for 20% more. So we asked for 20% more, got it. And then we left as soon as humanly possible. And then that turned into a solid year of the hardest work I've ever done with a really talented team.
Tell us what that means, but the hardest work. I mean, you just spent 4 years in the was it 4 years in the regiment? That's not light duty. So I really want to know, how could this be the hardest work you'd ever done?
We aired February 6th, and we immediately back ordered at full production till the end of May. And then at the end of May, they had a rerun. As, like, literally as soon as we fulfilled the very last back order, there was a rerun, and we back ordered till the end of August. So we were moving a record volume of product still out of my garage, 30 feet behind my kitchen. We moved millions of dollars of product. So it was getting up at 4:30 every morning, getting all the orders, getting everything sorted, waiting for the truck to pull up with our raw materials, and then having to inventory everything, bring it in, print out all the pick tickets, get everything sorted. And then by 6 or 7 that evening, we'd have multiple huge USPS, FedEx, DHL, UPS containers full, and having the trucks back up every day. And it was endless. It was like, it was nonstop, ad nauseum. It sounded like we were killing pterodactyls in my garage for months on end from all the tape guns. And you couple that with, all of the thousands and thousands and thousands of emails we had to respond to via customer service, because we were back ordered. So not only are you, trying to move tons of product, but you're also trying to retain all the customers that you work so hard to get. And it's just mentally draining. It's never ending. You just get in this vicious circle that there's no break in the rhythm, that it just goes on for months on end. And yeah, I served in the regiment, but yeah, one day we might go jump out of airplanes. The next day we might do breaching charges. Next day we'll go to the range. At least there was some diversity in it, but this was ad nauseum hard work for 6 months on end.
Do you get a little bit of the shakes when you hear a roll of tape go?
Yeah, not anymore. It
Okay.
did take me a while, but yeah, it is still one of those things. When they say nails down a chalkboard, a
Yeah.
tape gun is very close. You know?
Yeah. And I think that's the interesting piece to me about it is this is back in the, you were doing it all. You were the, you know, the receiving, the shipping, the packaging, and oh, by the way, the AR and you know, accounts payable and accounts receivable, you know, on the spreadsheet side, and don't forget customer service. Yeah, that's mentally and physically draining. That's and in your garage, that makes it extra close, so it doesn't go away from memory. There's no physical separation from it either. So when did it get into that kind of, all right, take a breath, let's implement this to automate or support or whatever was next?
Yeah, that was tough for us because we grew 450% that year on cash, right? And we broke even doing it. And when you say that to most business owners, they go, "Holy crap, you grew 450% in a year, and you did it on cash, and you broke even," because growth is exceptionally expensive.
Yep.
Yeah, we did it. And so then you hit this wave up, and now you have all of these customers. You have, you know, all of this. This experience in which, okay, now you can roll back and take a look at your data. And I would have to say, really, we hit those rhythms about 2 years later, right? Because you expect that you're going to grow this huge bump, and then it just kind of goes flat. And then you're expecting, you have this expectation of the huge bump, and the line of like making your first million is the hardest. Making your second million is 10 times harder than making your first million. And that's it's a parable. It's true. And I'd have to say that, you know, late 2019, we did a major revamp of our website, of our product line, of our marketing systems, and everything else. And that really automated to the fact of where, you know, now we have some bandwidth to be creative again. And that's where all the big leaps in business come, is from having the time to be creative. So that's that. I'd have to say like 2019. It's about two and a half years after the Shark Tank event really helped out.
What was the limiting factor for y'all during that time? Because you mentioned some of like logistical issues early on and those type of things. What was it that was limiting you from adjusting to that kind of growth?
I don't understand the question. Can you?
I guess what I mean is, you know, if I'm trying to think of how to put this. So if you, sorry, I went with agriculture for a second there. I had to steer it back. But, you know, you have your demand there. You have this huge increase in demand. What was the limiting capacity on the production side that wasn't, and this is where my ag brain went, not just planting more crops 2 months later, we're okay. Like, what was the thing that you were trying to solve for in that 2.5 years to control that growth, if that makes more sense?
Honestly, it was our advertising spend. We started during the golden age of social media, where you could actually post something at 8 a.m. and your friends would see it at 8 a.m. And then that time between 2016 and 2019, all of the social media platforms did a huge monetization shift, in which they started applying very complex.
Your audio there.
It says my internet's unstable. Did you guys lose me?
Yep, we lost your audio. That time we kept the camera kept going, but the audio stopped. That's kind of weird.
Okay, yeah. So I'll just take it from the top.
Yeah.
So the big limiting factor for us was our advertising spend, because we started during the golden age of social media, 2012, 2013, when you could actually post something at 8 a.m. and your friends would see it at 8 a.m. But between 2016 to 2022, right now, the social media platforms, in which a lot of small businesses depend, make massive changes to their algorithms, which drastically affect your cost per acquisition and your numbers in order to be profitable. So every time we felt like we got in a rhythm with a product or a market or advertising campaign, it would immediately shift. And then how do we keep up with it? And we're still a super small team. We're 5 people. So how do we then, develop a new product, shoot the new content, develop something that the audience responds to, and then deliver it through a social media platform in a way that's economically effective? And that, I mean, honestly, that's the huge thing that plagues us every day. It really is. And if they just went back to the algorithms that supported small businesses, I'm saying, hey, I'm going to post at 8 a.m. and all of my followers see it at 8 a.m. Small businesses would spend so much more money on these platforms, but the system is geared toward the big guys with the big dollars.
Yeah, Cam is dealing with that with our business driving purpose right now. He's playing the numbers game, the shuffling around, getting our stuff out there. So yeah, we're right there with you in that.
I'm laughing at the naivety that with that court case last year, I was like, oh, this is going to change, because I went through that with a few businesses and was like, gosh, this is really rough. And I was reading all into all the scummy things they were doing with the algorithms, and I was like, wow, so it's going to get better for small businesses. No, not yet.
No, not yet. I was having this discussion this morning with a friend of mine who used to work at one of the larger companies that everybody would know on the stock exchange. And I was expressing my discontent for Facebook and Instagram because I've been shadow banned. Like, you can't, I'm hard to find. You have to type in my full name, Combat Flip-Flops Griff to find me, because I wrote an article that was critical of the pullout in Afghanistan. And then there was a Kermit the Frog meme that apparently promoted violence and suicidal tendencies, it was just a joke, right? And so now all of my content, which I think is fun and inspirational, I don't try to be divisive or anything. It just doesn't get seen. It doesn't get shown. It doesn't get posted. And so as a business owner, trying to do the right thing by people, trying to be a better human, encouraging other people to do the same, you're now limited. And I kind of lost it a little bit yesterday morning because, just scrolling through the feed, there was some dude who hooked up his sister to a dog shock collar around her neck. And then they went through a drive-through and he was videotaping her as she was trying to order, and he was like giving her a charge. Thousands and thousands and thousands of views in less than 24 hours. You can, like, I'm in film school. I'm going to graduate school for film and production to learn how to make better marketing content. But I can't meet some dude who has a bad idea about hooking a shock collar up to his sister and going through a McDonald's drive-through. Like, this is the content that unfortunately people are consuming and or desire. Otherwise the algorithm wouldn't feed it to them. So it's this huge ethical and financial debate that I have, is where do I spend my time and energy that actually promotes the business and the values that I aspire to have myself or encourage others to have. It kills me.
That's a big frustration. And yeah, I'm right there with you in that. So what do you do? Let's you get pissed off about something like that. What do you do now? What do you do next?
I mean, it's not like you can post it on Facebook or Instagram because they're going to ban you anyway, right? Like, do you have to go to TikTok where it's, the same crap? Is it YouTube, and you don't know how YouTube's going to perform or their algorithms? It's just interesting. I don't know the answer to it. And if anybody has any comments, like, comment below. I'll be watching the comments. I'm looking forward to your suggestions.
Yeah. Open mic on that one there, fellas. Help us all out on that. If somebody's got the little, put this hashtag in there and then it fixes it all, right? Yeah, it's never that simple. You touched on what I was going to lead us to, but I love it when the guests make it super easy. I don't even have to work on my segues. Tell us about the Be a Better Human project, man. What's that? What's the driving force on it?
It's like, change is hard, right, for a lot of people. And I think, again, like, going back to the social media and the media that's pushed out there, you see these people who are at a pinnacle level, but you don't see the 10 to 20 to 30 years of hard work that it got. And then you're only going to see a 15 to 30 second snippet of the best part of their life. And a lot of people feel bad about themselves because of what they see out there. And my line is like, just be a better human. All you have to do is you have to be better today than you were yesterday. Whether that means you did one more push-up, had one less cigarette, smiled at somebody at the bus stop instead of frowning and looking back at your phone. But like, if you're better today than you were yesterday, and you just keep that trend up over time, you will be a better human. And if collectively we do that, and the line that we say is, if we all do a little together, we do a lot. And that's the message that we try to push within our community and our messaging as a company.
I love that, because, you know, I think especially like entrepreneurs a lot talk about this, how I think the way you always put it, Dad, is the overnight success after 20 years. And, you know, it's kind of what you're talking on, Griff. And I love that you're touching that more to not just the entrepreneurial side, but just the being a good person side, because that is the natural growth that someone has to go through. Just like you're trying to grow your business for 20 years before it takes off all of a sudden. You don't instantly just become a great human being. I mean, I'm sure there are little kids out there who have, you know, are so virtuous and just amazing little kids at 12 years old. But for a lot of people, it takes that growth and just trying to be better every single day with that. I'm trying to think of, Dad, you might be able to help me here. It's a Far East philosopher. I think he was a Buddhist. He like spent like 20 years in a cave. Do you know what I'm talking about? Okay. Swing and a miss. That's all right. But it's, you know, I heard somebody talking about him, and it's like, everybody wants to be enlightened like that guy, but nobody wants to go spend 20 years in the cave by themselves meditating to become enlightened. And it's kind of, you got to recognize that you do have to put in that hard work to become a better person. But to your point, Griff, if you do it every day, you're going to keep getting better.
Yeah, the line that we always have to remember is, the elevator to success is broken. You got to take the stairs. And that's it. That's really it.
And you know what popped into my mind, and I'm taking a big risk here: compounding interest. You know, if you put in a 1% improvement every day, hell, if you put in 0.1% improvement every day, think what that'll do. Think what that'll be like in a year. Think what that'll be like in 5 years, 10 years. Somebody out there will do some math and, you know, let me know. But, you know, you think about that, because that's what you're doing, right? If you're doing that one little thing of, hey, you know, I always like to say, if you smile at that person at the Walmart, you never know. I almost equate it to the butterfly effect, right? Because that could have made that person's day. They could have been having one of them shit days where it just, and all it took was a smile from a stranger to change that attitude. So I love the Be a Better Human project. And it reminds me, I'll give a shout out to our buddy down under, Phil Hayes St. Clair. He's got a project called Be in Motion. I'm gonna have to connect y'all to, because there's a lot of similarities in the outcome of it, you know, being a better human being in motion and in that sort of sense. So yeah, we're gonna have to connect you up with Phil. Good Aussie Defense Force veteran, and yeah, entrepreneur. Y'all have fun talking about your two projects. So,
sorry, Dad, I want to add on one thing with that, because we were smiling at the person at the Walmart example. I had this conversation with a client of mine last week, and we were talking through this, and he kind of pushed back on the idea that, you know, by smiling, because I like to use that example too, by smiling at this person, you're actually making the world a better place, because you don't know if they're actually going to carry into that positivity forward. And I kind of flipped it, did a little bit like the null hypothesis of, it's like, well, if you don't smile, you know they won't make the world a better place. You know they won't smile at the next person. And so like it's one of those, I kind of laid out to him, it's like, it's worth a shot. Like it's worth a shot, because it's the one thing inside your control is trying to help them. If they take that positivity and go spread that positivity, then that's a great thing. But you know, you're right. There is no guarantee that that's going to happen. But if you don't do anything, there's a guarantee that nothing will happen.
Agreed. Yeah. I have to say, like, I've probably followed that mantra for years about smiling at people. If I'm out in public and I make eye contact with somebody, I'm going to smile at them. Yeah. That's just my rule. It's muscle memory. Somebody looks at me, I smile, give them the nod, right? And it's only come back on me once, in the way that you just described, was I was walking into the grocery store, and I just looked at a woman. I said, "Hey, how's it going? Have a great day." And she stopped and she turned around and she's like, "You were the only person that was nice to me today. Thank you." Right. And she just like walked off. Wow. Right. And then, I mean, thousands of smiles, but I've actually had one person. And I always think of that one time where it turned out like that just kept me doing it for, you know, whatever, 5, 6, 7 years afterwards. Yeah.
That's an amazing affirmation, man, to get from that. And that's really, because I'm like you know, I do the hey, the nod, the smile, and all my years at Aggie Land, I do the howdy occasionally, not as much as I used to, but I still throw it out there. Really confuses people around here. But man, what a difference you could make. I just, yeah. And I love that. I'm laughing at the smiley face from Forrest Gump, and just
Forrest Gump, yeah.
Yep, that's what's coming to mind. That's the image I'm seeing in my mind. It's a great big yellow smiley face on her shirts. Hey, just smile, man. What's it cost you? So, and all right, I gotta reel myself back in before I go down too many Otis coaching roads. But what's it doing for you too? And your attitude when you just smile at somebody, whether they return it or not. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm flip-flops, some accessories, to be a better human project. What else you got going on? Because I know there's stuff, back there in the background, probably in your garage still, that you got piled up, that you got some special projects going on. And what's next?
We got a new camouflage pattern coming out.
Okay.
And it's so good, you literally can't beat it.
So are you talking about for me to hunt in, or when you say?
Yeah, you're gonna love it. I guarantee you'll be the most popular dude in hunting camp with this camouflage.
Will it draw the elk closer to me? That's what I really want to know.
I believe so. I haven't tested this pattern yet, elk hunting, but I firmly believe that, should you stay downwind and execute all the proper fundamentals, your camouflage will not be a deterrent from the elk.
Well, you have tickled my interest, because I'm all about believe me, I need all the help I can get when I step out into the mountains hunting the what does Joe call it? Whatever the Ted calls it, the magical elk and the magical flight of the arrow and all that. Oh yeah. Yeah, very cool. So when can I expect some? When is it going to be out so that folks can grab onto it and give it a run in the mountains?
All right. I lost you at magical elk.
Oh man, this is beautiful. Magical.
We gotta leave that blooper on there, because that's too funny that you came back in with that.
But they're majestic when you get out there and you see them and just how beautiful they are. It's a thing. Like it's addicting. Yeah, but like my family knows, like elk season rolls around, like I am out of my mind. The 3 weeks before, getting ready for season, and then the 2 weeks during, like, don't even bother talking to me.
Yep. Oh yeah, it's right about within the next week or so that this year's game regs will come out, and we'll start talking and planning it. And yeah, 100%, we're right there with you. And that same, I think it's maybe I don't know if there's a common denominator of our time in the Army that makes us like that, or the common denominator is we had that desire, we went into the Army, and now we're just, even got more of it in our blood. It's just part of who we are. So
it's the whole experience, but I firmly believe it's a matter of flow. There are very few things in life where it will bring you straight up into the present moment. And when a big old elk comes charging through the bush and all you got's a pointy little metal sharp object on the end of a carbon.
Yep. And Norman's gonna have a lot of editing to do on this show.
Oh yeah. I'm gonna tell him this is like a full edit. This isn't there's one blooper.
Yeah, this is man.
All right, guys. Where'd you guys lose me?
The pointy end on a carbon shaft.
Yeah, when there's very few things that bring you into the present moment, like a big old elk rolling through the bush, and all you got's a little metal sharp stabby thing on the end of a carbon fiber shaft. You train all year long for that 3 to 5 second opportunity, and you're right then, right now. And That's just how I explain it to people. So people meditate, they skydive, they do whatever, but elk hunting will bring you straight up into the present moment.
No doubt about it. I mean, because you are up close and personal.
Yeah.
In that sense, that 20, 30 yards. And it's like, man, the first time that happens in your life is just like, holy crap, that thing is big.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I don't care how much, I still remember that. I don't care how much preparation you do until it really happens and you really see it and what it's really like to you. All the pictures, all the reading, it's still a shock to the system.
Yeah. The adrenaline dump and your heart's up in your throat, right? It's a real thing.
Oh yeah. Yeah. So any other little projects you got going on, man?
I'm in graduate school right now. So I'm going back. I'm using my VA benefits to go back to film school to get a master's in production and filmmaking, so I can be better at marketing for my company. And then other than that, man, I'm a single dad of 2 girls. I got an old dog. I run a company. I'm just busy. I don't have room for anything else.
Keep your priorities straight, right, man?
Mm-hmm.
This has been awesome. How do folks follow up and learn more about what's going on Combat Flip-Flops, what you got going on next, catch up with you? What's the best word?
So I would have to say is always the website is the best, combatflipflops.com. I just started a new YouTube channel, which we're talking a lot about combat flip-flop stuff. So you can find me combatflipflops.griff on YouTube. And then everything on social media is at Combat Flip-Flops. So, that's where we're at.
Awesome. Well, man, this is good. And I'm kind of curious, but I'm going to toss it to Camden to see what he learned, just to throw him off the scent trail, because I lured him in with me going first for many, many episodes in a row. Camden, what'd you learn?
Well, I really love this. I think it's the first conversation we had, using the nicknames as a filter. That is something I kind of do out there, because not that many people call me Cam unless they know me pretty well. But I love that as if you address, in the email line, if it's Camden, not Cam, you're done, type thing. So I'm not quite on your level with that, Griff, but I love that idea. And I got to throw out, because I did do a little background Googling during one of the technical interruptions. The monk I was thinking of, it is a Buddhist monk, Tenzin Palmo. He spent 12 years in a cave, 10 foot by 6 foot cave. So there you go. That's how you achieve enlightenment.
The yogi in the cave that I talk about, right?
Oh yeah.
Well, for me, man, several things. I mean, the practical thing was the infamous reminder is you got to sell it. I don't care how good of an idea it is, how cool your pictures are, how beautiful your website is, and how, you got the greatest thing since sliced bread or the cure for cancer. You still got to sell it. I mean, it comes all right down to it. You still got to sell it. So that one, I think, is just one of those wonderful foot stompers that just as a reminder, it don't matter. You still got to sell it to somebody. Griff, how about you, man? What'd you learn?
Well, I learned that we're going to have to go elk hunting together. That's what I learned.
There you go.
And in doing these things, you really, when people are asking you questions and you're talking through stuff, I learned that I'm actually going to have to go through the decision matrix with my business partners and company about what we're going to do about Facebook and Instagram. Is it really worth our time as a business to be spending so much effort there? Because we do spend a lot of money and a lot of time and man hours on it. And then if it's not going to work out for us, then we're going to have to pivot and figure out something else.
Yeah. Good point and good catch on that. Man, it's been great. Appreciate your time this morning. And yeah, we'll have to get 2 circle back arounds for hook you up, my buddy Phil, and then figuring out elk season. So yeah, been great having you, Griff. Camden.
All right, well, take care.
Camden, run us out.
All right. Thank you all for listening to today's show. Special thanks to our guest, Griff, for joining us today, and our sponsor, Tribe and Purpose. Find your tribe, find your purpose. You can check out recent episodes of The Cam and Otis Show on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts, and check out a full archive at thecamandotisshow.buzzsprout.com. The Cam and Otis Show is on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Thanks again, and we'll see y'all next week.